Morality is objective, according to many Christians, and they believe that this is one way to prove or demonstrate that their God exists. Furthermore, the argument goes that there could be no such thing as morality if there is no God, and it is stated as if it were self-evidently true. For those who might not be familiar with the terminology, what is objective morality? This is the idea that certain things, such as raping a child, are always wrong, no matter what the time, place, and circumstances are. I happen to agree that that is wrong, and I would add genocide, murder, torture, genital mutilation, bullying, entrapment, and a host of other things to that list. The alternative to objective or absolute morality is subjective morality, whereby people disagree about what is right and wrong and cannot empirically verify their argument. So what do I have in common with Christians and other believers who claim that there is such a thing as objective morality? We're all human beings. And what do all those negative things have in common? They all cause harm to other human beings. Now, this might seem like an odd tangent to go down, but bear with me, it'll make sense in a minute. Einstein came up with his specific and general theories of relativity about 100 years ago. In them, he deduced that there is no such thing as absolute space and time, no such thing as a fixed location in the universe, or even a central point. Whether we're moving relative to another object or not, we always appear to be in the center of the universe. Also, due to the finite speed of light, there's no such thing as a simultaneous moment in time on anything other than a local scale. This is because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. Even our moon is 1.3 light seconds away from us, which acts like a time delay. It would be impossible to have a phone conversation with someone on the moon without a 2.6 second time delay. And if we ever get to Mars, radio communication in the form of a back and forth conversation will be impossible in real time, because the time delay will be half an hour or more. So what the hell does all that have to do with morality, you might ask? Observations in space and time are relative to the observer. Two people with different frames of reference may not be able to agree on exactly what the length, velocity and mass of a passing spacecraft are. This doesn't mean one of them is right and the other wrong. It's relative to their frame of reference. I submit that morality is similar. People disagree on what is right and wrong. For example, Jews and Muslims believe eating pigs is flat out wrong. Hindus feel the same way about cows. Jains, don't be confused by the swastika, feel the same way about causing harm to any living creature, even ants. Who's right and who's wrong? I submit that it's all and none of them, depending on your reference frame or point of view. I don't think there is any such thing as absolute morality. Think of it this way. Imagine there is an intelligent alien species living on a planet orbiting a star in the Pinwheel galaxy. It takes light 21 million years to get there. Suppose that we were to send a movie via radio signal which travels at the speed of light in their direction, and then in the year 21,000,2014 AD, by our calendars, one of them, with an incredibly sensitive radio receiver, happened to pick up our signal, decode it, and see moving images depicting the decapitation of a human being by another human being. Would they be horrified by this or not? I don't know. Now suppose the movie went on to film the inside of a slaughterhouse in which dozens of pigs were being dispatched by having a bolt fired into their brains. Would the alien be horrified by that? I don't know. If they coincidentally happened to be more like pigs than humans, then I dare say they would be horrified. But we would never know either way. We could never know. None of us will be around in the year 42,004,028 AD, the earliest time when we'd be able to pick up a reply from them. So unless someone can demonstrate that something like telepathy is real and that it can break the light speed barrier, it would be sensible to assume that the moral question of what goes on the Earth is only relevant to us here and now on this Earth. Furthermore, from a pig's frame of reference, a lot of what goes on in abattoirs is horrific beyond words. The same goes for chickens, cows, sheep, and all of the other animals humans incorporate into their diet. Am I saying that eating meat is morally wrong? It depends on your frame of reference. Billions of good people think it's perfectly okay to kill animals for food. We wouldn't have made it this far if they hadn't. But from the point of view of any animal which is being killed, humanely or otherwise, it's unlikely to be a pleasant experience. So how does this fit in with absolute or objective morality? I don't think it does. We are human beings who for obvious reasons have a human-centric sense of morality. We have to share a planet with other living creatures. We happen to have subdued and in some cases caused the extinction of many of our predators. We are the dominant species here, and apparently our gods tell us that it's okay to kill and eat certain of our distant cousins from the animal kingdom. Coincidence? I think not. The holy books we are told to worship and respect by other humans are supposed to be written or inspired by a being or beings who are superior to humans, yet the evidence for this idea is always strangely elusive. Coincidence? I can't help noticing that many of the stories about gods attribute strikingly human characteristics to them. I'm not aware of many atheists who have focused on this subject, even in public debates. They often seem to agree with the theists that there is such a thing as objective morality, and I end up shouting at the screen and telling it that human morality depends on humans. To call it objective or absolute would mean that all sentient creatures, including sheep, would have to agree with us. Since no sentient creature in good mental health would willingly volunteer to be a meal for another sentient creature in anything other than exceptional circumstances, it would be fair to say that morality is subjective. In other words, we have a bias towards our own species. The more different or smaller another creature is, the less concerned we are for its well-being. Very few people, apart from the Jains I mentioned earlier, lose any sleep over killing a mosquito or a midge. So my argument boils down to the proposition that objective morality is a myth, even though I happen to agree with a lot of religious people about what is right and wrong. I just don't see any need to introduce supernatural gods into the question. Nor do I see any clarity being offered to moral questions by presupposing that such beings actually exist. Most of us don't avoid murdering other humans simply because Exodus chapter 20 verse 13 tells us not to. We avoid it because we don't want to cause harm to others. Things like that seem like a no-brainer to me, and I'm baffled when certain believers claim that the only thing holding them back from such atrocities is the belief that a supernatural anthropomorphic being commanded them to follow a set of instructions.
If you were not a Christian, would that let you just do anything you want to do? I said, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I would live my life with absolutely no restraints at all. I would do whatever I want. And that's where we get you guys get lots of testimonies.
I'd be in jail if I wasn't a Christian.
I'd be breaking out of jail if I wasn't a Christian.
I would have gotten to counterfeiting.
Nice.
Because I got this propensity to print tracks, money tracks,
Yeah.
$1 trillion bills,
God,
$1 billion
you don't know how
bills.
many times the real thought has come to my mind. I am a wretched sinner saved by the grace of God.
Yeah.
I've said it before and I'll say it again now. Many religious people pass the buck all the way to God. They seem to think that God is responsible for everything good that happens, from their point of view, and that all the bad stuff is a result of so-called sin or disobedience of God's orders. Orders which must be obeyed without question, don't forget. They do this rather than accept personal responsibility. By inserting a supernatural God, they massively overcomplicate things which really aren't that complicated, in my humble opinion. Religious believers tell us that we were created in the image of their God. They also tell us that this God commanded us to subdue the earth, multiply without sparing a thought for the ecological carrying capacity of the planet, and to eat animals. If we one day find life on an extrasolar planet similar to the Earth, on which there are intelligent creatures who look a lot like large meerkats, then I predict that their religion, if they have one, will involve a meerkat god who has created them in his image and commanded them to subdue their planet and to eat their fellow but perhaps less intelligent animal cousins. Non-believers like me argue that it's perfectly possible to be moral without a God, but we're told by the believers that the only reason we are moral is because their God pre-programmed us with a sense of right and wrong. Okay, let's assume, for the sake of argument, that my sense of morality did come from God after all. What happens if I apply this God-given morality to the thing which many believers hold most dear, the Bible? If my sense of right and wrong came from the God of the Bible, then I would expect to be in agreement with all of his teachings in that book. I happen to have read it from cover to cover, and although there are many things in there which seem good, profound, and just, there are a whole host of things which make me recoil in horror. According to the story, God wasn't at all happy with what human beings were doing, apart from Noah and his immediate family. He drowned everyone else. Think about it. Global genocide. He even killed all the animals which didn't fit in one particular boat. I cannot comprehend how billions of animals, children, and even the unborn could have been so evil that they deserved to die like that. As the story goes on, it seems like God's plan didn't work. There were still loads of evil people who deserved to die. Men, women, children, and animals. I challenge anyone who has a sense of empathy to read the book of Joshua and not throw it across the room in disgust. So, if Jesus and Yahweh are part of the same Godhead, and if they and the Holy Spirit are the one who is responsible for wiring up my sense of morality, then how come it backfired so badly when it came to reading so much of the Old Testament? That's a serious question I challenge any Old Testament believers to address. Morality seems to be subjective. It seems to depend on who you're asking. If people believe that humans are the most important form of life, then they are likely to share a lot of common ground, whether they believe it comes from a God or not. And funnily enough, that's what we do find. As Christopher Hitchens used to ask, what good moral action could a believer perform which an atheist could not?